Hello, I'm Jeremy Jennings. I'm Professor of Political Theory at King's College, London. What I'm going to do in these modules is give you a general overview of the history of socialism from its origins to the present day. In the first module, I'm going to talk briefly about the origins of socialism. It's very difficult to talk about socialism before the beginnings of the 19th century. The word itself actually comes into existence around the 1820s, so it's very difficult to talk about a socialist movement before that point. However, something like the aspiration towards socialism has been around for a long, long time. It predates industrialization and so on. And that original inspiration, I think, really comes from a sense of social injustice. And a lot of it was actually inspired by Christian writers and others who looked at the society in which they lived, saw that it was unequal, saw that there was poverty, there were people living in very disadvantaged situations, and they wanted to rectify that. However, it's only really with the French Revolution in 1789 that we start to see something like a recognizable tendency to move towards creating a socialist society. Now, the French Revolution starts in 1789. The French Revolution was not a socialist revolution. Most socialists regard it as a bourgeois revolution. To that extent, from a socialist perspective, the French Revolution was a failure. But what happened in the course of that revolution, there was a process of radicalization, and out of that comes a sense that the revolution had been thwarted, that the revolution needed to go further towards creating a situation of social and economic equality. And the first hint of that we get was through a man called Babeuf, Gracchus Babeuf, who created something called the conspiracy of the equals. So his intention was to say the French Revolution was just the first revolution, now we're going to have a second revolution, and that will create something that you and I would now recognize as socialism. Babeuf is very important for a variety of reasons. First of all, he sets out what we would recognize now as the goals of socialism, namely the abolition of private property, and through that, the establishment of equality in society. The second reason why Babeuf and his conspiracy were important was because he also set out the means that this socialist society could be brought into existence. And as the name suggests, he thought it would be brought about through a conspiracy. That is to say, he brought into existence the idea of a party, not really a political party, but a party which was dedicated through secret means and illegal means and through violence in bringing about a socialist society. And that model has actually remained remarkably persistent in socialist thinking. Now, needless to say, nothing actually became of Babeuf's conspiracy of the equals. What happened, of course, was someone in the conspiracy betrayed them, they were all caught, and they were all executed. But that is the first example we have of something recognizably trying to get us towards what we would see as a socialist society. Now, after the French Revolution, right across Europe, not just in France, but right across Europe, there was a period of reaction. The French Revolution, by virtually everyone, was seen as a very, very bad thing. Lots of people had been killed, there had been lots of disruption, there had been wars, and so on. So you have a period between, let's say, 1800 and 1848, which is a period of fairly widespread reaction in Europe, a very conservative period. Now, during that period, socialism doesn't really exist. It's very difficult to find many traces of socialism at all. There's certainly no recognizable socialist movement. The manifestation of socialism we get at this time was what was subsequently known as Utopian Socialism. Why was it called Utopian Socialism? Well, for two primary reasons. First of all, on the whole, the advocates of this form of socialism believed the way forward was to try and create utopias, to create model villages, model societies, and so on. The second reason why these people were called utopian socialists is because very famously, when Marx and Engels published the Communist Manifesto in 1848, they spent a lot of their time attacking these people, called them utopian socialists, and this name stuck. Why were they important? Well, again, they were important because they set out a series of very interesting ideas which later socialists were to take up. They themselves, their movements all failed, but nevertheless they set out some very important ideas. One of them, for example, one of these utopian socialists was a man called Robert Owen. And Robert Owen created model villages in Britain, but also his followers created them in the United States. And he had one big idea, which is namely, if you put people in a bad situation, then you produce bad people. If you put people in a good situation, then you produce good people. So the environment in which people were brought up was really important. That's why he thought, well, what he was seeing around him was terrible working conditions and so on. So he tried to create these model villages to create good people who would work together harmoniously in a cooperative way and so on. Cabe is very interesting. There's Etienne Cabe, who was a very popular writer in early 19th century France, again because what he brings to fore is the idea of equality, that we should all, in a sense, be living in the same way. Now, many people regard this as a rather terrifying prospect, but he had this idea that we'd all live in the same houses, we'd all wear the same clothes, and so on and so forth. But again, the goal was equality. Another writer in this tradition was called Saint-Simon, and he was a bit of a crazy character in actual fact. But again, the thing that marks him out is because he realized that he thought a lot about, well, what's the source of wealth in society? Where's wealth? How is wealth created? And he realized that, well, wealth is created by the people who work. But what he also realized was, it was very strange, that the people who worked somehow didn't seem to benefit from their work. The other people, the non-workers, seem to benefit from the work of other people. And he thought, well, this is fundamentally wrong. And so he started thinking about how we could create a society where the people who worked would actually benefit from the work which they had produced. And this led him to think beyond that about government. So he thought, well, actually, look at government. Look at what government is doing in our society today. And on the whole, it's pretty corrupt, and it serves the interest of rich people. It doesn't serve the interests of ordinary people. So from that he concluded that we needed a fundamental reform of government. And the purpose of government was to administer society in the interests of the workers and the common good. Now, as I say, these movements really came to nothing. There was a lot of repression going on. They were never really mass movements and so on. But they did introduce some important ideas. Now, the second part is, as I indicated, is that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, in the Communist Manifesto published in 1848, were very critical of these thinkers. And the criticism they made was very, very important for the subsequent history of socialism. The criticism is a very simple one, but it's a very forceful one, namely, but we cannot create utopias. How can we possibly create a utopia in a society which presently is still plagued by poverty and so on and so forth? We cannot simply do it by wishful thinking. We cannot simply sit down in our studies or in our front rooms and so on and say, well, wouldn't it be marvellous to have a society based upon equality and justice? Oh yes, well, let's try and create it tomorrow. And Marx and Engels realised that that was never going to happen. Consequently, we had to find, or there had to be a different type of analysis of society, and we had to think of a different way of actually bringing about socialism. And that's the origins, or in that you find the origins of what we now know as Marxism.